outstanding performances of people, some professionals up here talking, but I think it's fitting that we end the day with the most important people in Writers Week, and that is you guys, right? So we're going to get that period here. No thank you. We're going to get right into it. Emma Pfister, let's do this.
Hi, I'm Emma Pfister. So I wrote a piece about change. Over the past 5.5 years, I've gone through a lot of internal changes. And no, I'm not talking about puberty. Over the past 5.5 years, I've had 3 siblings go away to college, not at the same time. One brother graduated college and had 4 changes of furniture in the house, and 1 loss of a very important family member. August 2012. My brother Connor and the oldest sibling goes away to college. It's weird at first not seeing him every single day, but I get used to it. I move into his room, painting his weird and gloomy blue and gray walls a happy and bright bicycle yellow. I still have 4 other family members and a dog in the house, and the house is almost as loud and as busy as before he left. Skip forward a year. My oldest sister Kaylin leaves for college. This wasn't too weird. She still texted my parents every single day to complain about something. This wasn't too weird. At first, seeing her bedroom empty was kind of strange. I was used to hearing her bed creak every night as she moved around. Now, silence. I think her leaving for college had the biggest effect on my dog, Maddie. She was the person Maddie loved the most next to my mom. February 1st, 2015. Today we got a new white sectional couch. As weird as it may seem, my family had a strange attachment to our navy blue, 2-piece, dog fur covered, almost 17-year-old couch. My dog, for instance, loved to lay on the couch and sleep or look out the family room windows. The couch where we celebrated every birthday, spent every sick day, and watched every movie. You start to get connected to the beat-up, sunken-in, old couch when you spend at least 25% of your day on it. The new white couch we got wasn't the same for my dog. She couldn't just lay down wherever she liked. We had to put a special sheet down for her just so she couldn't shed all over the place. Unlike our old couch, where her fur almost blended in. Disgusting. August 2016. My final sister Natalie leaves for college. This is a tough and weird one. The one sister who looked almost exactly like me. The sister whose room was right next door to mine. The sister who always woke me up in the morning, so there was no need for an alarm clock. The sister who all my friends knew best. The sister who I could talk to at any time if need be. Well, she was gone. Suddenly, instead of 1 open bedroom down the hall, there were 2. And no, we didn't just kick my brother out of the house. He got to sleep in the cold, dark, spider-filled basement. It was weird not to hear her moving around in the morning, opening the blinds, going to the bathroom, and putting on her makeup. All of a sudden, the house felt completely empty. My parents' attention was all on me. Usually I was able to slip under the radar and not eat my vegetables or not walk the dog, but now I had to do both of those. Our loud, busy house got a little quieter, a little calmer. The other 3 furniture changes happened around the same time. The old dog fur covered couch that was, again, frequently used by my dog was gone. And came another couch my dog had to get used to. I wasn't complaining, it was a comfy, bouncy couch. Then the basketball hoop. The hoop that had always been in my memories. The hoop where I practiced my 2-ball skills or played horse on. Gone. Then the dishwasher. This was not a sad change. The old dishwasher had been in our house since we moved in 19 years ago. It was loud, broken, and kind of gross. The new one was quiet and I guess really easy to use. I wouldn't know. This past year, the biggest change I've ever experienced happened. My grandpa passed away from a stroke. He's a pretty quiet man, but if you really listen to him, he had something funny to say. He's the man who met my grandma at a friend's wedding after my grandma dropped her contact lens into his drink. He's the man who called me happy because of how many times I got hurt. Losing him made me experience loss, a feeling I've never felt. I could suddenly connect more with people. Help me how realize how strong of a woman my grandma is, how strong my family is. Losing him was hard, but I know he's looking over us. Change may not always seem so fantastic, but honestly, it's what made me into the person I am today. Sure, some changes weren't as monumental as others, but they're all in the back of my head, helping me through the day. Change is normal. Change is frequent, and change can almost always be seen as a good thing if you spin it in a certain way. Thank you. Next, we have Patel.
Hi, I'm Patel. First, I'd just like to start by giving a shout out to my 8th period English class, Emmett class. I'd also like to give a shout out to 3 of my friends. You know who you are. Alright, so this poem is based off of another poem by Wallace Stevens, and his poem was called 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. My poem is called 13 Ways of Looking at an English Teacher. And no, it's not a roast, okay? No, it's not. 13 Ways of Looking at an English Teacher. 1. Among 800 noisy students, the only compelling thing were the words of the English teacher. 2. I was of 4 emotions, overwhelming and enrapturing, in which words were inadequate. 3. The teacher was lost in her river of knowledge, a small yet important part of our world. 4. The students and the lesson are one. The students and the lesson and the teacher are one. 5. I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of prose or the beauty of poetry, the teacher interpreting or the thoughts after. 6. Chicago air flowed through the open window of the theater. The mind of the teacher crossed the stage to and fro, already conjuring a lesson plan. 7. O young pupils of mine, why do you beseech the cruelties? Do thou not see how the evil traces back to the souls of those individuals around you? 8. I know many morals and the capacity of human behavior. But I know, too, that the teacher is involved in what I know. 9. When a teacher walks out of our lives, it marks the edge of one of many years. 10. At the sight of the English teacher walking down the hallway, I would always stop and say hi. 11. She scrutinizes the essays with the red pen. A dull regret struck her. All wisdom cannot be passed on. There just isn't enough time. 12. Life is moving. The class is graduating. 13. Smiles reflected the sadness in our hearts. While the English class moved on, the English teacher sat in the courtyard and hugged her goodbyes. Thank you. Next up, she's simply unique, Sarah Yoon.
Sorry, I'm short. Okay. I'm Sarah Yoon, and I'd like to give a shout out to my 8th period lit class. Okay. Can y'all hear me? Thanks. Okay. So my piece does not have a title, so I'm gonna get started. I moved to America from South Korea when I was 9 months old. So technically speaking, I'm a 1.5 generation Korean. Growing up, I've had some struggles in my life, and I'm here in front of y'all for education purposes, and I want to feel relatable. Number 1, being personal translators for your parents. My parents are not really fluent in English, and as the oldest child, I'm the person who speaks the best English in my family. From writing short emails to my teachers pretending that I was my mom, to waiting half a day to talk to a Comcast representative, I've been through it all. As a child, I hated this job because it made me uncomfortable. Starting from around 2nd grade, I would get weird looks in stores, and I was asked questions through the phone like, "You sound very young. Are you actually married with 2 kids?"
This question made me super uncomfortable because A, I was taught that honesty was the best policy, and B, I was in the 2nd grade, so being married with 2 kids wasn't really a possibility. However, because I was representing my mom, I just said yes. Number 2, the limited representation in media. Growing up, I was an avid fan of Disney Channel. My life surrounded around Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place, and Disney movies. But when you look at the representation and diversity in shows and movies, you see none because they're all white people. Well, Wizards of Waverly Place featured a Latino family, but that's besides the point. The only people that looked like me in Disney Channel were London Tipton and Mulan. Thank you. Okay. London Tipton was quite ironic because she had the personality of a dumb blonde girl. Not only that, Mulan wasn't typical either. She dressed up as a male to fight in the army. I was confused if my role model should be someone who thought that the gears in the car were Prindle or an animated character from ancient China. Neither of those whom I wanted to be. I wanted my role model to be someone like Hannah Montana, who lived an amazing double life, or Maddie Fitzpatrick, who was smart and pretty. But it was hard to find someone that I could connect with when everyone else was white. Number 3, being asked racist questions. As I progressed through school, the intensity of the racist questions increased. In elementary school, the questions were not that racist, such as, are you from China or Japan? Do you eat dog every day? Do your parents make fortune cookies? In junior high, kids started to learn that South Korea is a country in Asia. So the questions became a little more specific to me, such as, are you related to Kim Jong-un? How did you escape? Do your parents work for Samsung? And no, they do not. In high school, people started to mature a bit, but there were some occasions when I was asked if my last name is Kim or Lee, and no, it's not. Number 4, waking up every Saturday morning. All Korean children hated Saturdays. Why? Because it meant Korean school. I had to wake up early. To go up felt like prison every weekend. I hated the idea that I had to go to school 6 days a week. I had homework and never got to sleep in. All the Korean moms would send their child off to Korean school at 9 a.m. in hopes they would be fluent in Korean by the time they picked up the child at 2 p.m. But let's be real here. No one spoke nor learned Korean. I went to Korean school from kindergarten to freshman year of high school. That's like 10 years. I have never felt so liberated in my life when I stopped going. Number 5, fitting in. Being different was hard during my childhood. I always felt like I had to fit into a certain mold of a stereotypical Asian. I wasn't necessarily bullied to an extent where I hated being Korean, but I did almost push my cultural identity away. I hated being told I had small eyes, that I wasn't smart enough, and that my food smelled weird. I also was once called Voldemort because of my splat nose, and that actually really hurt. Like, who tells the 7th grader that they look like Voldemort? Oh my gosh. Okay. I hated speaking Korean with my parents in public because I didn't want to be looked at weirdly. I wanted to fit in with the white people in my class. I wanted my parents to speak fluent English, and most of all, I just wanted to be normal. But I always felt like there was this barrier between me and everyone else because of my skin color. All in all, I think being Korean is great. It took me a couple of years, but I learned that there are some benefits to it. First, I got a great college essay out of it. I also get to travel halfway across the world and don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on hotels because I can just crash with my relatives. I always eat foods from different cultures and I speak 2 different languages. But the best thing is, I accept that I'm different. I'm proud to be Asian because it makes me the person I am today, and I am proud of the progress that Asians have made in the status quo, such as having lead normal roles in TV shows and having people aware that we are just like everyone else. But Trump might set it back because, you know, he's Trump. Anyways, if it makes any other Asian feel better, white people are actually the minority of this world. Thank you. The next up is the amazing Elise.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Elise. Shout out to Braverman's AP So I started writing this poem over the summer, and being procrastinator that I am, I didn't pick it back up until the week before the deadline in December. But I'm not really sure. Okay, but I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say it in words, but I definitely know the feeling that I'm trying to convey, and I hope a lot of you can relate to this. It's called They Say. They say tomato, but they say tomato. They say it's a chicken, but they say it's the egg. They say Team Jacob, but they say Team Edward, well I say Team Racket. They say it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, but they say home save me, not hetero save me. They say you're the generation that's the hope of tomorrow, but they say you're the generation that'll bring the world down. Say be who you want to be, follow your dreams. Life is too short and to do what you want. But they say you need a job that's practical and pays. Life is too short to worry about our next meal. They say make sure you get plenty of sleep. Nothing is as important as your development and well-being. But then they say your homework is your top priority. Who needs sleep when you have schoolwork to do? They say numbers don't define you, your GPA, weight, SAT scores. But then they say you'll never get into a good college, you'll never get a good job. Your GPA just doesn't make the cut. They say love yourself, you have no self-esteem, but they say you love yourself too much, you're so conceited. They say it's what's on the inside, not the outside that counts. But they say you're dressed up too casually, you should dress up, make yourself presentable. First impressions are everything. They say love your body, everyone's beautiful. They say you're not healthy, go on a diet. They say you're too loud, you walk like a boy, you slouch too much, dress nicer, act like a lady. But they also say you act like a girl, man up, you're such a wimp, you're so weak. They say don't be a bystander, you're such a coward, but they also say don't be nosy, you'll get hurt in the process. They say, well maybe you think too much about the others, think for yourself, who cares about the others? But then they say you don't care enough, you'll never fit in if you stand up too much. They tell us one thing, then they tell us another. They say. It's all I ever hear. Why do they carry so much weight? Why do they make us so confused, so hurt? Who are they? Are they your parents? Your teachers? Your siblings? They're you. And you. And you. And me. Unless we change, we are the generation that will bring the world down. If we change, we are the generation as the hope of tomorrow. We carry so much weight. We have the power, the words, the strength to do so much. So don't give up. Thank you. Up next is Anna Levesque.
This is my college essay about failure. Failure is one of the most stressful experiences high schools struggle with every day. Students often measure failure by test scores, how many likes they get on a social media, who they're dating, or a final score of a sports game. I personally struggled with failure and it has taught me many valuable lessons. Failure is the lack of success, but what we often forget is failure is short-lived. Failure is just a moment in time. Sometimes failure cannot be avoided, nor should it be feared, because great lessons often result from failure, and these lessons can be shared with others. One thing failure has taught me is that I should never give up, and that I should persevere until I succeed. Unfortunately, I had a friend who gave up. One often hears about tragic stories of students committing suicide, but doesn't understand the insurmountable pain that caused that individual to take his or her life. I understood. I walked alongside someone who chose to throw it all away instead of facing his failures. I watched him make poor choices, which in turn put him in a very destructive path. At this point, he no longer cared about what he did or who he hurt. He made the decision that he was a failure to everyone around him and therefore had nothing to live for. I never looked at him that way. I wish circumstances could be different, but he's no longer with us. To me, his life was not a failure. He just chose to give up. Confused and angry by his death, I started to go down the same path. I became depressed and I felt alone. I withdrew and there was nothing I could do to stop the pain. He was gone and nothing could bring him back. I felt fully fixated on his death, to To escape the thought of his suicide, I stopped eating. After several months of self-torture, I took control of my actions and I stopped punishing myself. I came to the realization that I didn't want to take my life, I wanted to live my life. I didn't want to cause pain, but to help others cope with their own. Failure is not glamorous by any means and can bring shame and embarrassment, but I write this knowing I am stronger from this personal experience. I've learned that life is complicated and can be scary and challenging at times, but that doesn't mean to quit. So I no longer look at my lack of successes as failures. I look at failures as opportunities to learn and grow. Today, I am stronger and more educated on suicide. It's my mission to help those who are going through dark times. I feel I can help by listening and being encouraging. I remind them if they believe in themselves, they can achieve great things. And great things can come from failed attempts, so don't give up because of setbacks. Experiencing failures made me succeed by opening my heart and eyes to others around me. It made me realize that it's okay to start over when the outcome was not what I expected. Henry Ford once said, "Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently." I know firsthand that when times seem hopeless, there will be difficult times ahead. I can get through it and help others too. No matter how challenging the situation may be, there is always a better outcome when you find the value within yourself. I feel that every person has a purpose, and finding that purpose can be an adventurous journey. So my lesson learned is to find your purpose, work hard towards your goal, and know there will be bumps and setbacks along the way. But don't let failure win, it doesn't deserve it. Thank you.
Next up is Chris Zhu.
Hi, before I begin, I'd like to give another huge shout out to Mr. Shaker's 8th period AP Lit class. So this piece was inspired by a job I worked last summer, and it gave me some new perspective into the lives of others. Hope you enjoy. Tap. Why am I here? Tap. How did I get talked into this? Tap. 10 minutes in, and I'm already bored. Tap. I put down the mallet and little plastic pieces as I noticed someone heading toward my work table. "It's easier if you do it like this," she said, her words lilting with a heavy Spanish accent, positioning one of the unassembled pieces upside down relative to how I had them. I mumbled out a thank you and continued assembling my pieces. It was my first day working as a summer temp at Spraying Systems Company, a manufacturer of industrial-grade spray nozzles, and the place where my father has worked for the past 16 years. Despite my dad's senior status, however, I was granted the luxury of working in the nice, air-conditioned offices in the engineering department where he spends his days. Instead, I was stuck on the shop floor, moving inventory, stacking boxes, and assembling parts for 8 hours a day, and doing whatever odd tasks that my team leader could come up with. Of course, I was vehemently against the idea of spending half my summer break laboring for what seemed like a measly $8.75 an hour, but my dad was insistent that I finally learned, as he put, the value of hard work and adult responsibility. At the time, I was not entirely sure how performing manual labor would accomplish this, but as I got to know my coworkers over the following month and a half, I faced a very new reality. A few days into my first week, I overheard one woman talking about her young children. Eager to combat the monotony of repetitive labor, I engaged her in small talk, asking her about her family life. I was taken aback by the response. Delia was an unmarried 28-year-old working to support her 5 children on the same wages that I made as a high school student. It finally dawned on me what my dad was talking about when he meant adult responsibility. Delia knew how to work hard for a living because she had to. These workers, devoid of the privileges and opportunities that I had taken for granted my entire life, were earning near minimum wage to provide for their families and cover costs of living. Maria, the woman who had helped me out earlier, had worked at Spring Systems for over 35 years since she moved to the United States from Mexico, and she needed surgery on her right arm from overexerting it on the job. Maria understood what work is. Natalia, who had moved overseas from the Ukraine to gain better educational opportunities for her 6-year-old daughter, and whose unfaltering concentration had her assembling parts faster than anyone in the entire department, understood what work is. Seeing how perseverant my coworkers were, I strive to put in more effort in my job, considering that my presence was a convenience, and theirs was a necessity. My own parents had lived a similar lifestyle some 20 years prior. Immigrants from China, they too worked low-wage jobs in order to make ends meet, all in the interest of providing the best opportunities for my sister and me. It was clear now what my father wanted to show me. The advantages that I had been given from birth were a result of him working through difficult times so that I wouldn't have to. Realizing this, I resolved to make the most of my fortune and work to the best of my ability. In the present and into the future, I will continue to show the motivation and perseverance that is required to fulfill my adult responsibilities and meet the potential of who I can be. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, up next is the one and only Nathan Hill.
So I know not everyone in this room is going to want to hear me talk about what I'm talking about. And that's okay. To be honest, I don't really care if you listen or not. I don't care if you like it or not. You're stuck listening to me, so. But I hope you take something away from it, because what I'm talking about affects one person in every 4. Out of this high school alone, that's an entire grade. So every sophomore you know at this high school could be affected by this. That's how realistic it is. I'm talking about anxiety and depression, and I'm talking about mental illness, and I know what you're thinking. We know about this. We've heard enough people talk about this that we know what it's like. We know how hard it is. And yeah, it is hard, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about our knowledge of it, but our lack of understanding of it. And we don't understand it because it's hard to understand something when you've never experienced it. So I'd like to maybe fix a few misconceptions. To start, people often think that an anxiety disorder is feeling nervous or scared all the time. And if you told me that, I'd say you're not wrong, but you're also not right, because we all feel anxious. Everybody feels anxious and nervous. That's a normal human emotion. We feel anxious when we're about to take a test that we haven't studied for, or we're about to talk at Writers' Week, right? Those things make us nervous, and that's a normal human response to something that could potentially be dangerous. And that's not an anxiety disorder. An anxiety disorder is feeling that same feeling of your stomach turning inside out when there's nothing to be nervous about at all. You're sitting at home watching TV and you feel the same terror inside you when you miss a step on the stairs, and you feel that for a second and you almost fall. It's feeling that for no reason at all. That's not being scared. That's not being weak. That's not being a pussy. That's not anxiety. That's a chemical imbalance in your brain. Right, that's a mental illness the same way diabetes is a physical illness. And just the same way there's misconceptions with anxiety and with nervousness, there's misconceptions with depression and with being sad. We all feel sad. We feel sad when we get a bad grade on a test that we studied hard for, and we feel sad when we break up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But depression isn't feeling sad when things don't go your way. Depression is feeling sad when everything does go your way. Depression is feeling sad when everything is going right. And that's frustrating. It's frustrating to not be able to feel happy when everything in life you could possibly want, you have. It's frustrating, but I'm not telling you this so you feel bad with anybody, so you feel bad for anybody with a mental illness. That's not why I'm doing this. To be honest, I don't want your pity. If you pity me, I'll give it right back, because I don't want it. Because we all learn to live with it. I'm telling you this because people with mental illnesses need to get help. That's the only way they're going to get better, and they're not getting help. Why aren't they getting help? Well, they're not getting help because of a stigma that we created. And I know you can tell me there's no such thing as a stigma around mental illness, but answer this for me. You wake up in the morning and you can't go to school. Would you rather call the attendance office and say you can't go to school, because you have a fever, or because you have so much anxiety about the day you can't even get up? Would you rather email your coach and say you can't make it to practice on the 21st because you have a physical at your doctor's office, or because you have counseling at your therapist's office? It's embarrassing to admit that you have a mental illness, and that's strange. It's strange to me because if you break your leg, you get a friend to carry your backpack with you for the 5-minute freeze. But if your brain's broken, and you don't make serotonin the right way, man, you just gotta cheer up. You just gotta be positive. Things aren't so bad. It's embarrassing to admit that you have a mental illness. And that's just strange to me. And I'm not telling you all of this so you can fix anybody's mental illness. I wouldn't ask you to do that because you can't. And that's okay. The only way that it's gonna get better is with help. And we're not getting help. I'm asking us to make it a safe place where it's okay to ask for help. That's what we can do. And if you need help, I'm asking you to get it. Because there's nothing wrong with you. You're not any less. You're not weak. You're just sick. You're sick, and that's okay. In just the time I've been talking to you, 2 people in the United States killed themselves in the last 5 minutes because of a mental illness. They didn't get help because they were scared of the stigma that we've created, and I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with creating a world where someone can't ask for help because they're scared they'll be judged. So what I'm asking you guys to do is, number 1, if you need help, ask for it, because nobody's going to judge you here. Right? You're just sick, and that's fine. If someone with diabetes needs an insulin shot, do they get funny looks and say you need to man up? No, they're sick. They're sick, and it's the same. And number 2 is to make a space where it's okay to get help. To make it okay to ask for help. And we can do that. So let's do it. Thank you, guys. Next up is the one, the only, the sexy Shari Patel. So, before I begin with the pre of this speech, everyone I said to take pictures or videos, can you please do that? Nice. Okay. And then I just want to give a few shout outs. Allie Wortham helped me edit this. There you go. Helped me edit this a little bit 4th period, so I appreciate that. And then to my mom, love you. And then to all my English teachers, so freshman year, Mr. Heritage, sophomore year, Ms. Brockman, junior year, Mrs. A, wonderful, there you go. And then right now, Mr. Schaefer back there. And then along with that, shout out to my 8th grade class, you guys are fantastic. And last one, totally unrelated to any of this, sign up for OSB, started Monday, so you can find the form on d2m.org. And thank you to our boosters, because I don't feel like the students have that. All right, so here's my piece. It's called Cookie Break, and it originally started out as a college essay. The prompt was write about something that you love to do, but I kind of morphed it into, it's not about me eating cookies, okay, that's not what it's about. And it kind of morphed into something a little bit more. Here we go. As the dough rises, the aroma of warm chocolate chip cookies fill my home on a cold winter day. The snow fills the backyard, and I mix the eggs, butter, and flour together, tossing in an abundance of chocolate chips. My mother helps me form little balls of cookie dough, and I try to slip some raw dough into my mouth. But as usual, she yells at me. Still, totally with it. As I hear the ding, I take the freshly baked cookies out of the oven and throw them on the cooling rack. Waiting the allotted 1 to 2 minutes to cool, thanks Nestle Toll House instructions, I sit down to enjoy the simple snack with my mom. Through baking, I found a way to create memories with others in a new and exciting way. I found an activity that took away from the mundane routine of being a slightly angsty teenager and allowed me to explore my creativity. The struggles of high school have left me with 5 knee dislocations, regrets about grades, and a sense that I didn't accomplish enough with my time here at Fremd. However, I did learn the importance of taking a break, especially this year. In a high
high school like Fremd, the craze for taking AP classes or having the perfect ACT or SAT score is a culture that most buy into. Most don't buy into the idea of taking a step back to enjoy something unique and inviting it to themselves. Most don't recognize the value in focusing attention on something other than academics. Through my passion of baking small treats, I have given myself time to just turn off from the world and the responsibilities that come with it, and enjoy life for what it is meant to be. I have learned that the best cure for a bad day at school is a simple chocolate chip cookie and a cold glass of milk. I've learned that even in my toughest times, a small treat can help me keep going. So I encourage everyone to find their own passion. Something that isn't a chore, something that allows you to grow. Something to take a step back and see the big picture. That you aren't bound to things just by your GPA. An activity that you didn't just participate in because your mom wanted to or because your friends are doing it. A passion that you may not have discovered yet. But take the time to find your break. To find perspective in a world full of expectation. And ultimately, find something that gives you a way to truly be you. As I sit with my mom and think about my future, I see the integral role that a task so simple as baking chocolate chip cookies will have on my ability to handle the pressures of college, regardless of where I end up next year. I know where she should go. Over the course of time, I've grown my forte from the world of chocolate chip cookies to the vast realms of cakes and brownies. My passion from baking didn't rise from taking classes or helping someone in vacation when asked. I was driven by the ability to do something myself and get a sweet reward at the end of it.